For the first time since 1971, Pakistan's ISI is in Bangladesh. This after Pakistan has made an attempt to cozy up and rebuild its relationship with Bangladesh. It is no coincidence that all of this is happening as relations between India and Bangladesh nosedive, with Sheikh Hasina continuing to be offered refuge in India. I'm Barkhadat, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we'll be looking at the big geopolitical story in our own neighborhood, and that is the odd cozying up between Pakistan and Bangladesh. Remember, Bangladesh was birthed after the Indian Army's victory against Pakistan in the 1971 war. Now, for the first time since 1971, the Pakistan Army and the Bangladesh military have reopened relationships, and we even have the spy agency of Pakistan sending a delegation to Dhaka. Now, one must also ask about whether there is an unseen China factor behind all of this. Is there an attempt to build a new axis between China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh? And how should India respond? As I said, Sheikh Hasina is in Delhi and the ISI is in Dhaka. As the Chinese would say, we certainly live in interesting times. I should also mention that Trump is now in America, and what might that change? Let me introduce our guests on the program today as we look at these very dramatic geopolitical developments. Joining me is Ms. Veena Sikri, one of India's finest diplomats. It's always a pleasure to have her on the program. Good to see you and welcome, ma'am. Also joining us is military veteran General Atta Hasnain. He's a former general officer commanding of the 15th Corps, but he's been writing extensively also on the situation in Bangladesh and what it might mean for Indian national interest. Good to see you, sir. And also joining us is from Pakistan today is Qamar Cheema. He's, of course, a defense analyst based out of Pakistan. And I want to welcome Mr. Cheema to the program as well. All right, let's get started right away. Veena Sikri, I'll start with you. What do you make of the fact that the ISI is in Bangladesh? And that when you think of the irony of this moment, the fact is that the 71 war, the victory of the Indian military, that birthed Bangladesh. And since then, you haven't seen this kind of contact between the Pakistani military and the Bangladeshi government. Now you're seeing both the Bangladeshi military in Rawalpindi, where the headquarters are of the Pakistan Army, and you are seeing now the ISI in Dhaka. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that 2 points come to mind immediately. Firstly, what you mentioned about 1971 and the forces that have lined up today. There was Pakistan, who was the big conduit for the change in Bangladesh on 5th of August last year, and the 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, where they were they called it a spontaneous students' uprising, but it was neither spontaneous nor a students' uprising. It was a very carefully planned military coup, definitely coordinated by Pakistan with the backing of the USA, aimed at bringing Sheikh Hasina down. And that is what they did. And I think when you see the lineup of forces today, my point is that exactly the same as in 1971, only these forces were on the losing side in 1971. And there was the birth of Bangladesh and the Mukti Jodha and the Indian Army. They had a joint command, and we had the outstanding liberation of Bangladesh and the creation of a new country. I think that, and this was, of course, the end of the two-nation theory, as it were. Now, in between, the second point I want to make is that it's not that the ISI is coming for the first time since 1971, because I recall that when I was there between 2003 and 2006, and Begum Khaleda Zia was the prime minister, there was a lot of effort at that time for the ISI to be very active in Bangladesh, and they were.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying the way the media is reporting it, that this is the first outreach since 1971 is not correct, but Hasina kept them at bay. Sheikh Hasina kept the ISI at bay.
Kept them at bay. It may be the first visit by a DG ISI to
correct,
Bangladesh.
at their rank. Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
at that level. But certainly the ISI was very active, and they were encouraging the Bangladesh military at that time to host them in many ways. And every terrorist attack in India at that time had a Bangladeshi footprint, because it was coordinated by the ISI through Bangladesh, and it was happening, in India. They were using it as an easy access to India because of the porous border between Bangladesh and India, whereas the western border, as you know, is always very heavily guarded. So I think this is the second point. The third point is what is happening today. So when Sheikh Hasina was forced to leave Dhaka on the 5th of August 2024, we saw many reports coming out of coming out of Pakistan at that time, when they were talking, oh, we've got the two nation theory back. And I have seen I've seen posts, WhatsApp and recorded podcasts, where some of the defense analysts of Pakistan, I haven't seen Mr. Chima's podcast, but I've seen others. And one of them, I'm sure Mr. Chima knows him, actually said, oh, now this is back to two countries, one nation. So there is a clear attempt to bring Pakistan and Bangladesh on this. These are Pakistani analysts saying it. It's not me saying it. So please, I would like to reflect this as a way that the Bangladesh and Pakistan armies are now thinking and are trying to coordinate, because in these few months, we've seen a whole slew of reversals as far as Pakistan and Bangladesh relations are concerned. There was no trade between them. There were no cargo ships from Pakistan coming to Chittagong port. This has started. There were no easy issue of visas between them. The MHA of Bangladesh had to clear every single visa that was given to a Pakistani. This has been changed. There was no students from Pakistan studying in Bangladesh universities. This has been changed. And I think all in all, even the visit by the senior generals of the Bangladesh army to Rawalpindi, as you said, that took place last week, that was certainly a first, but I don't think any such visit had taken place ever between senior Bangladesh officers going to Rawalpindi. And I think the Bangladesh military tried to keep it very quiet, but the ISPR was issuing regular announcements about the meetings and about what they were doing and who was there and so on. I didn't even see much coverage of it in the Bangladesh media. They really wanted to keep it quiet. But that was not me, because of the ISPR. And now you see the return visit by the ISI. We've also seen the China angle coming in, because when the Bangladeshi generals were there, they spoke about buying these jets from Pakistan. But of course, these are Chinese jets which are being made in Pakistan. So obviously, there's a coordination to bring in the Chinese angle. We also see that Tauhid Hussain, the foreign affairs advisor of Bangladesh, he has been in Beijing last week. And there was a very long announcement from Beijing about, this friendship and what they're going to do and so on and so forth. So there is this effort, exactly as you say, to build up. I would not link it at all to the presence of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in India, because I don't think it's linked to that. It is this effort. This was a target of the military coup, and it's the effort to bring it together. I think also that I think there's an effort, and this was being talked about in Dhaka a lot, that there'll be a change in the leadership of the Bangladesh army and so on, and they wanted to bring in certain key people who were even being mentioned. This has not happened. So obviously we are seeing now what is going to happen next, because I know, as you mentioned, President Trump, I can take that issue up also, because President Trump has always expressed himself very strongly against Islamic radicals. And we do know that in the last 5 months, the presence of Islamic radicals in Bangladesh has increased enormously. They are as advisors to the Bangladesh chief advisor, Professor Mohammed Yunus. You have members of the Hizb ut-Tahrir, a banned organization. You have the Jamaat-e-Islami controlling all decisions behind the scene. You have the Hifazat-e-Islam, which is a political organization, also as advisor to the government. You have, and the same person is also a member of the Islami Andolan Bangladesh, which is also another political party, Islamist political party of Bangladesh. So we are seeing this sudden change. And I want to say finally that I do not think this is being welcomed by the people of Bangladesh. I think the fact that they don't want this, they don't want it. You're seeing that many people are saying now, "Aage bhalo chilo, it was better earlier." They don't want the situation where you've got all.
So I'll tell you what's interesting is we reached out to a number of our Bangladeshi friends, and nobody wanted to particularly speak on this subject, which in itself tells you how cagey people are about offering an opinion. This is still I would say there's still an element of trauma in the historicity of relations between Pakistan and Bangladesh, and nobody in Bangladesh was willing to actually come and speak on this. And we'll get the Pakistani perspective in a moment from now. But I also want to play out what the Foreign Ministry, the MEA, has said. A very short statement saying India is keeping an eye and appropriate action will be taken when it comes to safeguarding our national security. Before I come to General Hasnain, just playing out this statement from the MEA.
There are developments which are happening in our neighborhood. We keep a close eye, close watch on all these developments. We monitor them and we take appropriate action as required.
And that's all that the MEA would say. General Hasnain, Ambassador Sikri says, do not link this to the fact that Sheikh Hasina is in India. This is just about the forces that tried to coalesce in 1971. They were on the losing side of the argument then. With a change in regime in the United States of America, they may well find themselves with the shoe on the wrong foot all over again. These are uncertain times. But as an army veteran, when you see the Bangladeshi military making a delegation, sending a delegation to GHQ in Rawalpindi, the headquarters of the Pakistan military, when you see the ISI at the rank, I take Ambassador Sikri's point, maybe it's about the rank of seniority that is present in Dhaka, and certainly Sheikh Hasina did keep the ISI at bay. What are you thinking?
Thank you, Barka. Very interesting developments. And largely, I agree with Ambassador Veena Sikri. But let me start making one or two important points. Firstly, I don't think the Pakistan army or Pakistan's strategic interests ever left Dhaka on 16th of December 1971. They were always there. They remained embedded there. I went twice or thrice to Bangladesh, and I found in each talk of mine, there was always someone from Pakistan always sitting there, listening, taking notes very, very quietly on what I was saying. So the interest was obviously there because they knew that there is a vulnerability in India's eastern flank, and Pakistan will always seek opportunities. Besides that, they left behind lots and lots of people who were not sort of surgically removed from the scene. They continue to remain embedded as interests. Secondly, Bangladeshi officers have been doing courses, military courses in Pakistan forever as I can remember. And similarly, Pakistani officers have been doing it in Bangladesh too. What Ambassador Veena said was absolutely right.
So what is different about this time?
Yeah,
so
what we've seen a ramping up. We've seen a ramping up of the size of delegations, the status of delegations, which seem to be moving in and out of both military capitals, so to say. Obviously, these are opportunities which Pakistan is seeking. They are seeing that this is what has happened in Dhaka at the moment, and this is a golden opportunity. Why not take this relationship a little beyond? Strategically, it works wonders for them, creating a third front for India. India has always spoken about two fronts, half front, in fact, the 2.5 front. This becomes the third front, which gets opened up here. So it's not necessary that anyone is going to war tomorrow. This is all a part of posturing. This is all a part of military diplomacy. Projecting, see, we know your vulnerabilities. We are also capable of reaching out and creating situations which are to our advantage. This is exactly the messaging which is going around. Mostly in this situation, psychological warfare is a very important precedent to everything else. What you're seeing is most of the pictures, most of these news stories are coming out of Pakistan. Projection is not so much from Bangladesh. Obviously, Bangladesh is quieter on this entire issue. It is Pakistan which is seeking the opportunity, grabbing the opportunity and projecting it. Now, the other issue which I want to bring out is India and Bangladesh, the two armies, have also similarly enjoyed a very strong relationship. It's not as if Pakistan is suddenly tearing the Indo-Bangladesh army-to-army relationship into shreds. We have been serving together in UN assignments. I have served personally in 2 UN missions with many, many officers at senior levels, people who went up to become army chiefs and things like that. I've been in touch with them. And we are very good friends, let me say. So it's not as if everything has been torn apart for India either. The third point I want to say is that If we presume that there was a third, someone's hand, an exterior hand, which was behind this entire chain of events which happened in Dhaka on the 5th of August, and we do believe strongly that there was an external hand. Obviously, it was with the intent that bringing in radicals into the scene would upset a complete political scene out there. This has happened on the American part in other countries as well. It happened in Egypt, if you remember, bringing in the Muslim Brotherhood, bringing in Mohammed Morsi after the Arab Spring in 2011. But it didn't last. It just lasted 11 months and Mohammed Morsi was removed. The army itself revolted and came back, and you found General Sisi becoming the president subsequently. So, the armies have a way of cleansing these things themselves. What is being attempted is to try and increase the radical footprint inside Dhaka, inside Bangladesh at the moment. Something which Pakistan believes will work to their favor. And perhaps their sponsors also believe that it would work to their favor. Now, with the coming of Mr. Trump, this thing may change dramatically. I do believe strongly that this may change dramatically, and you may find a reversal of fortunes taking place in the very near future.
Yes, I think we should spend some time talking about the Trump factor. But before that, Qamar Cheema, how is this being seen in Islamabad? Is this being monitored carefully? Is this being commented on? I take the point made by both General Hasnain and Ambassador Sikri that it's not the first contact, as it were. It's not like the Cold War ending or the Berlin Wall falling, but certainly at the level at which this contact is taking place, the timing of it, right? The knowledge that there is tension right now between India and Bangladesh, all of this is obviously something that Islamabad and Rawalpindi would be talking about. How is it being seen?
Well, frankly speaking, I have not seen that there is a much conversation going on at the think tanks or the media how things will move on, because we on daily basis we operate in the think tanks, we go on the conversations, we talk and we speak. But yes, there has been some talk, but it's not that everybody is talking. And the media is paying attention, and normally the Pakistani media more looks inward rather than looking in the regional politics.
I was just going to say that I guess the media also has its hands full with so much domestic political turbulence with the Imran Khan sentencing and all of that perhaps this has gone under the radar.
Yeah, so we look more inward, so that is something. But I have a point on this. I think there is more panic in India. For example, I remember back at the G20 when President Biden was there in India, and Prime Minister Modi really wanted that Hasina to meet him, and then they really want that the Americans to change their perception about Bangladesh. And then we saw that 3 days ago, where Dr. Jaishankar is meeting with Marco Rubio and talking about Bangladesh. And obviously, many people in Pakistan or in Bangladesh may be saying, cribbing about Bangladesh, that Bangladesh should restore democracy, so on and so forth. I think, in my understanding, or what we look here, that the Indian media is highlighting so much of the things which are not, for example, there. For instance, DGISI's visit. There is no DGISI's visit. Nobody has spoken.
But there's a major general rank officer. One minute, come on. There's a major general rank ISI officer who's gone. I didn't say the ISI chief went. The major general rank officer who's gone. I think Ambassador Sikri is wanting to say something. Can we unmute her? Just 1 second, Qamar. Sorry. Ma'am is trying to say something. Ambassador Sikri?
The person who is there, he is the DG of strategic analysis in the ISI. So that is a very senior ranking in the ISI. I don't think that, that there is such a senior officer has come officially delegation to Bangladesh before.
Correct. And that's what I was saying to Mr. Cheema, that we have not on this program said this is the ISI chief. We've said it's a high-ranking ISI delegation. But do go ahead and complete your point, Mr. Qamar Cheema.
Well, the point is the entire Indian media. I'm not saying that the Mojo is saying this. I'm saying the entire Indian media is talking about, and that the DGISI is there. So DGISI is here in Pakistan, and obviously they don't tell normally about his movement. But we understand there is some, since India has micromanaged Bangladesh for long, India's access has compromised. So we do understand that things are really, the situation is not there. And
but can I ask you something? Can I ask you something before Ambassador and General respond? You say India has micromanaged Bangladesh. Obviously, that's not how we see it. We see Pakistan deeply traumatized by the birth of Bangladesh and seeing an opportunity here to try and build bridges with the country that previously reminded you meaning not you, Mr. Chima, but the Pakistani state of the defeat of 1971. That's what we see.
Let me tell you. Let's be frank. Let's be honest and frank. So
Yeah.
it's Pakistan which has tried to micromanage Afghanistan, and we failed in that. And today we are where we are. You understand better. India micromanaged Bangladesh, and India failed at the end of the day. Now India has chosen Hasina Wajid over people of Bangladesh. Listen, let me finish my argument. No, you didn't
Okay,
stop.
okay, finish.
allow me
Okay,
that-
finish.
Great. So,
I didn't finish. Please
you know,
finish.
India has chosen Sheikh Hasina Wajid over the Bangladeshi people. So this is a fact. They have asked for the demarche. They have sent the note verbals twice. Nobody is responding. So it is India which has to see that what they want to do. So, for example, you have to honor and respect the Bangladesh sovereignty. We similarly had to respect and honor the Afghanistan sovereignty. So I'm making, the equal claims that. So here, what is important for us is that India must not think that two Islamic states on our India's border, as General Hasnan or others are mentioning, that this is a third front of war. No, this is not a third front of war for you. I think there are so hypothetical statements in Indian media. And we understand this is a sort of a frustration, or this is sort of a panic.
Okay,
Panic, frustration.
I don't know. Okay. Now I think all three of you have had your sense, and of course, Mr. Chima, it goes without saying that we have. You want to say one more sentence? Okay.
General God, but you are the host. You can move on.
नहीं, आप बोलिए, आप अपनी point complete करिए, please.
General Hasnan got a lot of time. Ambassador got a lot of time, but
आप बोलिए.
I should have been given that time. But the point here is, what I'm saying is, India should not feel that there are two big Islamic nations on Indian border. We are, let me tell you, the moment Hasina Wajid is gone, the entire Indian state, or particularly I will talk media, I will not name anyone else, they started looking or claiming or making Bangladesh as a radical Islamist, nation. That is not the case. So when Hasina was there, it was all perfect for the Indians. If Hasina is gone, they have tried to portray in Bangladesh as a radical Islamist nation, which is, I understand that the minorities have been targeted in Bangladesh. I do understand that, and that should not have been done. But portraying Bangladesh in a way or in a sense and calling that, these are radicals, and Pakistan and is giving JF-17 Thunder to Bangladesh to attack India, I think this is reading too much. There should be some sense on this.
Okay. Now I think we have a very clear perspective from our Pakistani guest. Before Ambassador Sikri and General Hasnan respond to some of the points that he has raised, Mohammad Yunus made a very dramatic and intriguing sort of comment in his conversation at the World Economic Forum at Davos. And I just want to play out that little clip, and then I'll come right back to Ambassador Sikri. Take a look.
A 12-year-old young person writing a letter which mother was crying and reading to the public after all this happened. I never get him back, she was saying. She wrote me this letter, Mom, you always protected me so that I don't go and join the protest march. And I was sitting in home and raging, very angry that I cannot go. Today, I'm going. I'm saying goodbye to you. I don't know whether I'll come back. If I don't come back, please forgive me. My friends are there. They are brave friends. I'm a brave person too. He went out. His dead body came back in the evening. That's what made this movement. It's not just another demonstration or another thing. It's a complete qualitative change that is taking place.
All right, Ambassador Sikri, Yunus is taking his message to the world stage, but as General Hasnan pointed out, the world is fast changing. There's Trump in the United States of America, and General Hasnan said that all calculations that have thus far been made in Dhaka, in Beijing, and even in Islamabad could rapidly change. Even in New Delhi, we will all have to adapt to a changing world order, which is most certainly coming with the Trump presidency. I know you want to respond also to our Pakistani guest, but also to what the Trump presidency might mean for how this unfolds from here.
Yeah, okay. Let me begin right now by commenting on the what you said is a dramatic quotation by Professor Muhammad Yunus in Davos. I think the same Muhammad Yunus, when he was speaking at the Clinton Global Initiative in New York, actually let the cat out of the bag, because he was introducing Mahfouz Alam, and who is, as you know, the special assistant to Professor Muhammad Yunus, and today is an advisor in the interim government. And he is also a member of the Hizb ut-Tahrir, according to most of the media in Bangladesh. I mean,
did we lose Ambassador Sikri there?
The events of
you're back.
August. And he said, don't think it was spontaneous. It did not just happen. It was meticulously planned. It was meticulously designed. So I do not know from there how he is now trying to say in Davos about the tragic passing away of a student, because we do know that in the interim regime that is there, one of the advisors actually spoke about how people died, and he said there were, unauthorized weapons in the arms of civilians, and the people who have died have not died only by police. They have died by weapons fired by civilians. And where did these weapons come from? These were actually from the looted police stations of throughout Bangladesh. These are seized weapons. So I think that, the whole business about saying that somebody has been killed by and blaming Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for that, I think this is something that is already been discounted rapidly. Secondly, secondly, let us talk about the chaos and the complete lack of law and order that exists in Bangladesh today. There is no control of the situation. There is no control because the police hasn't come back. The army has magistracy powers, but they're not doing anything because they've been told by the Biden administration, if any of your officers are anything again, we will not let them go for UN peacekeeping. So I think, please let us not say that this illegal, unconstitutional regime in Bangladesh is as if it's a government that's going to stay. Because they swore themselves in as an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of Bangladesh, which has no provision for an interim government. So I think that, we are talking about a situation where even the people of Bangladesh are now saying, what is this? Everybody wants elections. The BNP is asking for elections. The other political parties are asking for early elections. And this government is saying, no, we want to do constitutional reforms first. Is an interim regime authorized to do constitutional reforms? It's only an elected government that can do constitutional reforms. So by this regime taking on a pretense that they are authorized to do constitutional reform, they will change the constitution, they will remove secularism, etc., etc. This is an unreal situation.
But may I ask you, ma'am, before I go to General Hasnain, our foreign secretary has met and has engaged with this regime. We don't officially recognize it, but we are engaging with them.
Yes, our government has said from the beginning, and I think our government has shown enormous patience and restraint and has not been provoked by the repeated statements being made by this government. But they said from the beginning, we are happy to deal with you. We want to deal with you. But our foreign secretary also said, as quoted in the media, that we will only deal substantively with an elected government. And right now, we will continue the day-to-day of the thing. And our Prime Minister, when he wrote to Muhammad Yunus in the very first message on 8th of August, spoke about the safety of Hindu minorities and Christian minorities and Buddhist minorities in Bangladesh, and said, please look after them. So that, but the government, the regime in Bangladesh has been denying that anything has ever happened to the minorities. And even leading papers are saying, no, first they wrote about it. Pratham Alo first wrote about it, saying there were 1,600 incidents. Then the media was gagged. Then they were, leading articles and editorials saying, look, nothing has happened. Please tell the Indian media not to write about it. Then Vikram Mikri goes there. And then the very next day, the same interim regime led by the same Professor Muhammad Yunus says, oh, yes, there were 88 incidents and we've arrested 70 people. So, this coming to President Trump himself, while he was campaigning, said that he knows and he's very disturbed at the chaos in Bangladesh. He said that he talked about the barbaric attacks on Christians and Hindus in Bangladesh. And obviously, now that he's as president, he's going to look at the situation. He does not want this Islamic radical. I'm not talking. I don't know where the panic is. Where the word panic, Mr. Chima has used it today. He used it another day when I was on another channel with him and said nothing except panic, 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 panic. Indian government is very cool. I think they've been completely restrained. Many of us are talking about the actual situation because we get feedback about the actual situation. So we are talking about it, and so we know. And the Islamic radicals are in the interim regime. I mean, whether it is Jamaat-e-Islami, Kaulin Nishwat, or as I mentioned all these names before, I can mention them again if you like, but they are there. Who's denying they are there? And in fact, the BNP, which was in alliance with the Jamaat-e-Islami previously when Begum Khalida Zia was in power, has today not, they're not on the same wavelength at all. The Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to consolidate the Islamic vote and that is why they're trying to delay elections, and the students are trying to form a political party. These students are not the ones who led the uprising. The first protest against Sheikh Hasina for the quota reform was done by a across the board students group, for which Sheikh Hasina had already accepted the reforms. She had already.
Yeah, and you believe in any case, if I'm reading you or hearing you right, is that things are going to fast change with the Trump presidency. I want to bring General Hasnain on that and also Qamar Chima. Ambassador Sikri says, no panic. We're chilled. The government is chilled. It's cool. Qamar Chima says the media is panicking. The Indian media is panicking. The Indian media is simply asking I don't speak for the whole media, but certainly I am asking only to understand the import of what is happening and whether it's going to change very swiftly. Let's talk about what we think is going to happen next. There's Trump, and in 48 hours, he's certainly brought in a slew of measures that have changed domestic politics rapidly in America. He has also used the word ridiculous to Putin in the context of the Ukraine conflict. And he is not going to be like the Biden administration was vis-a-vis Sheikh Hasina. Now, joining these dots, what do you think might happen next, General Hasnain?
Barka, one or two issues I will want to still comment to make my further arguments with the one which you ask. First, in the world of social media today, in the world of visual media, the kind of speech which Muhammad Yunus has given in Davos, with a bit of a stutter, a bit of an emotive kind of a sentiment expressed here and there, relates to a young boy, a Bangla boy, obviously a Muslim boy, right?
Yeah.
There are equally that many Hindus also who have died. And as an Indian Muslim, I'm saying it, right? Could he have also mentioned something about them who have been targeted by the very radicals who are claiming all this which is happening there at the moment? Muhammad Yunus is, I think, putting up a stupendous show, projection. That's how leaderships who are pushed into appointment situations which they are not prepared for actually act ultimately, right? So I don't give any credence to that kind of a thing. And in the times of Trump, particularly, I don't think Mr. Trump would be greatly appreciative of the sentiment which Muhammad Yunus is expressing there. Mm-hmm. Having said that, the diplomacy which India is playing couldn't be quieter than this. This is the quietest diplomacy I've seen from the MEA in terms of anything among the neighbors. You see, in Sri Lanka or anywhere else, there would be shuttle up and down, things happening here and there. Here we are sat back. And I think we've handled this very maturely, allowed things to move, made our points, expressed a sentiment here and there from time to time. So I don't think that there's any panic here. If the panic appears to be in the media is meant to be questioning all this, right? Even if they do it, it's good enough. That is what they're supposed to be commenting upon. And this aspect of, seeing that we are being surrounded by Islamic nations, etc., I'd like to correct Mr. Chima on one aspect of his perception. We have never seen Bangladesh as an Islamic nation. The way we see Pakistan in the throes of radical Islam, we have never seen Bangladesh like that. Although the Jamaat has been strong, etc., all that we have seen, we haven't seen the streets, we haven't seen street battles, the manner in which they take place in Rawalpindi in Islamabad and things like that, right? All this should be worrying Mr. Trump, because I think there'll be a change of perception in the United States security establishment to say, because we are actually promoting the very people who carried out 9/11. That's where 9/11 came from. It came from West Punjab, from West Pakistan, from those areas of the western frontier of Pakistan. That's where all this was born. That's where the Taliban was born. Would Mr. Trump, would his establishment be happy to see the export of all this ideology into Bangladesh, which so far has been absolutely a secular nation, as far as we are concerned? So I do anticipate, I can't put my finger to it to say that this will happen and draw up a calendar for it, but I can tell you a lot and lots is going to happen as far as the American support to this entire so-called coup d'etat which has taken place in the recent past.
Okay, Mr. Kamal Chima, I'd be interested in understanding from you what you think might change with the Trump presidency. Because we've argued and disagreed a lot about what the situation is right now. Let's look ahead. What happens now? Even Muhammad Yunus is committed, or he has to be committed to holding elections. The elections, provided they are held in a free and fair way, will determine eventually who represents the people of Bangladesh, right? Till such time, there are cataclysmic changes coming both home and abroad with the Trump presidency. What do you think might happen next?
Well, there are a couple of comments, and then on this question, I think India learned this Islamic radicalism term after 9/11. So terming the Bangladeshi people who are on the streets that these are Islamic radicals, I think that is undermining the street movement or the very will of the Bangladeshi people. Now, coming to your question that what the Donald Trump is looking for the region, I think in my assessment, when the Indians talk of multi-alignment, when the Indians talk of strategic autonomy, that basically that hurts the West. Let me tell you how. So this is in one way the United States really want to cut to size India's regional influence. And that's where Prime Minister Modi has been convincing the Biden administrations to do not push the Hasina administration to the wall. But I think the American had a different view. So I think the Americans are not going to buy India's perspective for the South Asia or for Bangladesh. Americans may listen to India regarding Pakistan, but American would have a different view of Bangladesh, because they do understand that India should not have that much of a regional influence where they want to control everything. So they have a control on Maldives or Sri Lanka or Nepal or Bhutan, but having Bangladesh on their side and micromanaging the region might not be in that American interest when India talks of the strategic autonomy and multi-alignment and all these things. So I think the Donald Trump administration or the Marco Rubio, all these people may not listen India in that way. And I think what we get a street sentiment from India is that this particular government in India, in Bangladesh, has been installed by the ISI or by the Americans. I think that's not the case. The only case is that the United States will work with India for rest of the Indo-Pacific. The United States will work with India how to micromanage or counter China, but giving too much space to India in the region, I don't think so. That makes the case.
Okay. Ambassador Sikri, closing comment to you. Where do you see these tensions going from here? Our Pakistani friend says, America will not want the Indian state to have untrammeled, unlimited influence in the neighborhood. Your thoughts? Trump isn't going to immediately look at our part of the world. He's going to first look at Russia, Ukraine. He's going to look at Israel, Gaza. But eventually he's going to get here. What do you think is going to happen, Ambassador Sikri?
Let me make just 3 points here. First of all, I'd like to remind our very good colleague from Pakistan that it was Jake Sullivan, the outgoing NSA, who actually spoke to Professor Muhammad Yunus a few days before he handed over charge and said that he wanted stability, prosperity, and democracy in Bangladesh. This was as an expression of disappointment that Professor Muhammad Yunus had not been able to ensure any of these three in Bangladesh. So I think the important point is that if America, I think I'm saying Jake Sullivan, but I can certainly say that the new Trump administration also wants stability, prosperity, and democracy in Bangladesh. So does India. India has very good relations with the Gulf, with a number of what our colleague from Pakistan is describing as Islamic countries. We have very good relations, and there's no need to cast these kind of aspersions on India. Please respect India for what we stand for in our foreign policy. We do not see foreign policy from a point of view of religion. We have very good relations. Our Prime Minister has excellent relations. He has received the highest awards from many, many countries in the Gulf and from Saudi Arabia and others. So please, I think you have to take that and don't see something in this very narrow context that you would like to. I would like to ask what Pakistan is going to export to Bangladesh. Instability, a failing state, radicals. In fact, on one of the ships that landed in Chittagong carrying Pakistani goods, there were 37 and somebody said 78 Jaish-e-Mohammed cadre who was supposed to have got off the ship and melted away into Bangladesh. Very reminiscent of what I saw very often when I was there between 2003 and 2006. So we are aware of what Pakistan is trying to do in Bangladesh. I think our External Affairs Minister spokesman was very clear on that. We are certainly being very calm and collected about it, but we will see about it. I think the Trump administration recognizes all of this. They want to have good relations with India. You saw the Quad meeting. You were just showing the visuals of the Quad meeting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Quad meeting is about Indo-Pacific, and the Indo-Pacific includes the Bay of Bengal. Bay of Bengal is a very important part of the Indo-Pacific. And I think what is happening in Bangladesh, what China is trying to do in Myanmar, the messaging China is trying to send to Bangladesh, they're trying to control that situation. But what has happened very recently with the Arakan army in the Rakhine state of Myanmar tells a different story altogether. Saying all this because it points out the complexities in the region. And I think this kind of attempt to talk about this, and to talk about that the people's uprising is Islamic, no, that's wrong. The people of Bangladesh want this stability, prosperity, and democracy. That's why they're asking for early elections. The people who were originally talking to Sheikh Hasina were the ones who had got what they wanted. The Supreme Court told them that we will not have any more quota reservations. So then the violence came on the streets because it was taken over by the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islami Chhatra Shibir and other Islamic radical organizations. And that is why the advisor of the Bangladesh government itself spoke about that. Of course, he was removed the next day from his post. That's a different matter. So I'm talking about the complexities within Bangladesh as well. And the way that they have treated the minorities and trying to push them out of the country is unheard of. It's an ethnic cleansing. And I think General Atta Hassan is absolutely right that, Professor Muhammad Yunus has not a word to say about the hundreds of thousands who have lost their livelihood, their properties, and have been terribly removed from the situation. And Chinmoy Das is in jail without any bail just because the minorities have said today that we are going to stay in Bangladesh. We are citizens of this country, we want our rights. And when they make their rights the 8-point demand, neither Professor Muhammad Yunus nor the media, anybody, not even mention this 8-point demand. They're not even prepared to talk about the rights of the minorities. What kind of a nation does this interim regime want in Bangladesh? We want stability, prosperity, and democracy. And we are certainly prepared to work with anybody who wants that.
All right, we leave it there. Sorry, ma'am, you're saying something. Can we unmute you? We missed your last sentence. Yes?
I said that we want stability, prosperity, and democracy in Bangladesh, and we're prepared to work with all interested groups. More and more people want that, including the Trump administration in the US that has taken over.
General Hassan, you have a sentence? I do have to close, but one sentence.
I just want to give a one-liner at the end. There may be a perception in Cheema Saab's mind that as if the Trump administration would be going after India primarily because India may be getting too big for its boots. That's a perception which is prevailing around the world. Some people think about it, and particularly a prevailing kind of a emotion in Pakistan. But let me tell you, I don't think you should be looking at it from that angle. India is developing at a pace. India is being respected around the world. And I don't think the Trump administration is going to get after India primarily because they want to keep Bangladesh out of India's reach. The Quad itself exemplifies it. The clinching argument which Ambassador Veena Sikri made, that the Quad exemplifies it, Indo and Pacific.
We leave it there. Thank you so much, General Hasnain, Qamar Cheema, Ambassador Veena Sikri. This is going to be a very critical next few months. And I think many of the questions we have raised will answer themselves given a little bit of time. We are, of course, looking ahead, and we should know soon. Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting conversation. Take care. See you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Voter Story and support independent, robust journalism.